about visceral fat for a while. When we look at fat in general, yes, of course, carrying extra weight around is damaging to our joints. It can drain us of energy, can drain us of confidence, but it's the visceral fat that's going to kill you. So I really want to give you some strategies on this video on how you can start to be able to help the visceral fat and how you can identify it. When we think about fat, we usually thinking subcutaneous fat. So subcutaneous means the fat that's just like right under your skin. So it's like skin fat. It's like cellulite would be a subcutaneous fat. It's soft when you touch it. It moves around. It's not hard. Visceral fat is the exact opposite. It is that hard, dense belly fat. I'll tell you, my dad, my 88-year-old dad, is a great example of visceral fat. A lot of men, as they get older, they get those bellies, but the fat is hard. And what that means is that there's buildup around a fat within the organ system. Subcutaneous fat, we look out at the mirror and we're like, ooh, I don't like the way I look. I'd like that cellulite to go away, but it's not going to kill us. The hard fat, in fact, some men specifically, are what we call skinny fat, where they can eat everything they want, but underneath all their skin and their organs, there's a ton of fat. Well, when we look at visceral fat and it's hard on the outside, that means that the fat has accumulated on the inside of your internal organs. So we want to be able to get this fat to go away. So how does this fat accumulate? Like, it's so interesting because we just throw fat out there and we don't look at like good fat versus bad fat. We actually just throw it out. We're like, fat, I want, and this is why you're going to hear me say this a lot. I'm not a huge fan of the number on the scale because it doesn't address what type of fat you're accumulating. Maybe you're even accumulating muscle. That the BMI that so many of us have been measured against in our doctor's office is such a slim measurement. We need to look at the type of fat that you are accumulating. So visceral fat releases a waste product directly into your portal vein. This is why it's a problem. So it's not fat that just sits there around your organs, it's actually releasing cellular waste. And there was a 28 study in Hepatology publication that found that visceral fat, because it's giving off this cellular waste, and because the liver is going to have to take that cellular waste and it's going to have to detox it, and because the way in which the mechanism in which it does that is it goes through the portal vein, that visceral fat increases your risk of liver disease, and it dumps a ton of triglycerides into your liver through the portal vein. I'll give you an example. I'll give you some ideas here at the end of this video on how you can be able to release the stagnation that might be coming in your portal vein. So if you want to know if you have visceral fat, you can look at your belly, obviously see if it's hard, but look at if triglycerides are high. Look at your blood work. If triglycerides are high, there's a good chance you've got this cellular waste that's building up in the portal vein. We also have another 28 study in Clinical Cornerstone that found that visceral fat also physically compresses your lungs and your diaphragm, and it decreases your oxygen to your organs. This can contribute to things like asthma and sleep apnea and other breathing problems. So the interesting thing about our lungs is they're like right here in the middle part of our torso, but the diaphragm is down low. So when we get that big belly, you're actually starting to push against that diaphragm, and that diaphragm can't expand and contract, so you're not going to get enough oxygen in. And if you're not going to get enough oxygen, this isn't long-term, this isn't just about breathing problems or sleeping problems, this is about mental health, because you have to oxygenate your brain cells, you've got to oxygenate other organ systems. This is a huge issue, which is why visceral fat is so dangerous. So a hallmark 2011 paper in the European Journal of Epidemiology concluded that visceral fat, check this out, is the single most accurate predictor of heart disease. So let's make sure we're not matching our high cholesterol, which is a sign of stagnation in the liver, with a big hard belly mixed with high triglycerides. Now you've set yourself up for heart disease. And it's also, this visceral fat is one of the biggest predictors of death from all causes. So, what are we going to do about it? I think that is the most important thing. And what can we do to burn it? What can we do to avoid it? Now, I want to start with what we can do to avoid it. So, a big message that I'm trying to bring forward to the world right now, because we have this obesity epidemic, is that we as a whole, as a culture, are not getting fat accumulation because we ate too much. I want you to think about this for a moment. So many of us were raised in the calorie in, calorie out idea. But the obesity that has taken over the world right now is a food quality issue. It is not a calorie quality problem. So when you are eating ultra-processed foods, what's happening is that that extra toxicity is what gets turned into this visceral fat. So these are your canola oil, your vegetable oil, your safflower and sunflower, your soybean, your partially hydrogenated oils. All those synthetic oils are going to immediately turn into visceral fat. We also have our highly processed, ultra-processed, refined sugars and flours also turning into visceral fat. If we just look at the calorie in, calorie out, we can look at the calories of those foods and compare them to the same calorie count of a bowl of broccoli. And I don't know a lot of people that eat so much broccoli they become fat. That is not a thing that happens. This is why the calorie in, calorie out argument is just not helpful. What's helpful is we've got to get off the ultra-processed foods and get off the toxic oils, because they are creating this toxic fat that is giving off the cellular debris, which is stagnating the portal vein, which is overloading the gallbladder and the liver, which is causing the diaphragm to be pushed down, the lungs to work harder, which is impeding the oxygen flow to all the tissues in your body. Can you see why this is a problem? So we want to be able to change our diet, and I'm going to add a few other things in here to minimize the accumulation of visceral fat, but also we want to make sure that we get rid of the visceral fat that might be there.
Okay, you know how when you're trying to get in and out of fat burner, sugar burner, and sometimes you struggle? It might be that you have a metabolic blocker that's at play here. Want to know what those blockers are? Click on the link below and I'll take you straight to a giveaway, and you can have my list of metabolic blockers.
So, let's go back to science and see what science says. A 2023 study in the Journal of Obesity compared intermittent fasting, my fave, one day, in this version, their version of intermittent fasting was 1 day of fasting per week, and they compared that to a regular low-calorie diet. And they had the participants follow this for 8 weeks. And what they found was fasting 1 day a week was superior to normal dieting in every way, including the people who fasted, the rest of the days, by the way, they didn't count calories. They didn't even look at the quality of their food. I gave you that as an extra bonus. All they did is 1 day a week, they decided to fast. And that group had nearly twice the overall weight loss, and they had 2 times the visceral fat loss. And because fasting does this, they had much greater appetite reduction compared to the group that was calorie restriction. Now, both groups ate the total same amount of food, but there was one key difference, is that the fasting group also followed a high protein diet. So you've heard me talk about this. Protein is definitely the fad right now. We want to eat protein at every single meal. Protein helps calm the hunger hormone. It helps stabilize your blood sugar. It gives you amino acids for building muscle. When you build muscle, you have more insulin receptors in there. So really cool that they said, hey, to the group over here, why don't you go ahead and just eat, don't eat 1 day, and on the other days when you're eating, let's just make sure you're adding more protein in. This is a very simple protocol to follow. As opposed to over here, what they said was just, here's your calorie count, No addition of protein, no fasting, no quality control. So if you want to burn fat, visceral fat, it's really simple. Let's make sure we fast 1 day a week. You can have water, you can have coffee, no cream or sugar, you can have tea, and then the rest of the time, make sure that when you're eating a meal, make sure you're having protein with each meal. The study recommends at least 100 grams of protein a day, and I'm always recommending a good clean source. Make sure that if you're eating animal meat, you're getting protein that doesn't have a lot of chemicals in it. So super easy to do. This is not rocket science. If you have a big belly and your triglycerides are high and your overall cholesterol load is high and you know that you are a candidate for a heart disease, this is, yes, there have been some incredible results with things like Ozempic and the weight loss drugs, but there's so much we can do using fasting as a tool because it's free and the body heals itself and it knows how to go into these reparative stages when you're fasting. And then let's add in some protein. And all of a sudden we've created a very simple approach to a very complex problem. So what I would love to hear from you, because we're a community here on YouTube, I'd really love to hear if you followed that. Did you see your triglycerides go down, any other cholesterol marker, and your weight, specifically your waist circumference, go down by just following that protocol? 1 day a week of fasting, protein, high protein diet, the rest of your meals. I want to hear from you. How many of you had success with that type of eating? And if you're new to my channel and you're just kind of trying to get to understand what I'm teaching you here, go look at the comments, because we have an incredible community here that is always giving different new feedback and encouraging everybody on this channel to live their best life. If you want to be a part of a community, a free community that's fasting, head on over to Facebook, my Resetter Collaborative. We have like 150,000 people, like fasting zealots that really know how to put this stuff into action. So you can head on over there and really find a cool community that's hanging out in my Resetter Collaborative. But what I don't want you to do is give up on yourself. I don't want you to feel like you're out of answers, and I definitely don't want you to die. So we have to stop marginalizing and just saying, hey, this belly fat is just dad because he's been drinking too much beer, or mom because she went through menopause. There's so much more to this picture, and it's such an easy fix when you throw fasting in as one of your tools. So, as always, I hope that helps, and I'll look forward to seeing your comments below.
I know you're struggling to lose weight. It may be your fasting length. So in this video, I'm going to show you the perfect fasting length to unstick weight loss. In fact, it's such an incredible tool for weight loss. I think you should start with fasting before you change your food to be able to get into that door in for losing weight.